Hi folks, it's Double Wings. I haven't done an English program for a while. The main reason is I have been focusing on the political news, especially about Hong Kong and the US-China trade these days. So recently I did a couple of episodes. It's not related to the news and to political things. So I figured I'll do an English version of it too. So here it is. The first topic is about evolution. Now, I was brought up to be an atheist before I came to Canada, even about 10 years after I came to Canada. I had been a very staunch atheist. So my life, most of it I spent as an atheist, so to speak. It's not until recently I started to have doubt about evolution. I know it's a topic that's being preached in school and universities. The new generation also have been brainwashed, like I was, about the absolute veracity of evolution. First of all, evolution is a theory, right? It's got a theory of evolution. So by definition, a theory is not something that we absolutely know that is true. It's a reasonable hypothesis, and we have some evidence for it. So at best, it is only a possible truth that we evolved from monkeys or reptiles or amoeba before that. Here I like to point out the difference between natural selection and evolution. These are not the same thing. Natural selection has very solid evidence for it. And we know that when Darwin studied the finches, he studied the beak, the shape and the length of the beak, and attributed to these differences to adaptation to their behavior. So, to simply put, natural selection will cause a species to alter its morphology somewhat to adapt to the new environment. Now this is true to human as well. Like, if you live in a cold area, you probably have more body hair and stuff like that. So that's all good. But evolution says something different, because evolution claims that we can jump from one species to another species. I use the word jump, but in reality, evolutionists claim that it actually takes millions, tens of millions of years for one species to evolve into another one. A reptile to a bird, for example. And the problem is that we don't have any evidence for that. Well, one can postulate just by intuition that if it took millions of years for a reptile to evolve into a bird, then there should be lots of in-between specimens. Some more reptilian, some about half bird, half reptiles, and some are more bird-like, but with some reptile remnants, right? But we haven't found any fossil of the kind so far. I remember back in school, there was this picture of a half bird, half reptile that was supposedly being dug up somewhere in Europe, I think. That was claimed to be a solid proof of an in-between species. But that particular fossil was later found to be a hoax. It was fabricated by some evolutionists too eager to prove Darwin was correct. So what does that tell us? Because theoretically, there should be lots and lots of fossils of these in-between species. How come with all the fossils we dug up so far, we didn't find any? So my point is, so long as we don't have a considerable number of these in-between species fossils, we cannot claim that one species was able to evolve into a different species. This claim was unfounded. It's not scientific to claim that. Of course, there's many other arguments against evolution, but I'm just talking about the most salient one, that the one that jumped up to me, that caused me the most concern about the veracity of the theory of evolution. Now, speaking of fossils, there's another thing I am doubtful of the scientific community. It's about dating of a geological specimen. We all know a geologist will take a rock and says it's so many million years old and so many billion years old. But imagine you go to the mountain and you look at a big rock. Do you have any idea how old this rock is? I mean, if someone says it's a million years ago that it formed, or someone says it's 1,000 years ago it formed, does it make a difference to you? Of course not. You look at the rock, you don't know when it was formed. You weren't there when it was formed. So it could be 1,000 years ago, it could be a million years ago. Now, we all know geologists have this method called radiometric dating. It's basically it measures radioactive isotope in the rock, and theoretically this isotope has a half-life, and it decays over time according to the length of the half-life. And if you measure the remnant isotope in this rock, you can calculate how old this rock is. But my issues with this is, number one, for this dating method to work, you have to know what the original amount of this isotope in the rock is. I don't know how they got that number. And maybe they do have a very good, convincing method to obtain that number. But my second question is more philosophical about this dating method. Is that for this method to work, the half-life of this isotope has to stay the same, regardless of time. In other words, the geologists, they just assume a million years ago, this isotope is decaying at the same rate as it does now. Now, I think that's a big assumption. Many people might just assume, say, yeah, sure, it should be decaying at the same rate. It's the same isotope. Why should it be different? I should remind you, just recently, there are physicists who are exploring the possibility that the speed of light was different millions or billion years ago compared to the speed of light right now. People who are familiar with physics will know that the speed of light is the most important constant in this universe. If the speed of light changes, then our whole physical world will be vastly different. But the knowledge of physics we have today will be non-valid because all the other constants, like Planck's constant and so on, so they will all be different if the speed of light was different. So my point is, something as important, probably the most important, as the speed of light could be different in the past. What made you think that an isotope's decaying rate wouldn't be different? So in conclusion, my topic today is just to try to stir up some controversy, to plant some doubting seeds in you, so that you learn to ask questions, not to take everything you were told for granted to be the absolute truth. And a true scientist should welcome questioning, scrutinizing, and debating. Anyone who says a scientific topic is a settled science is not a true scientist. They just try to fool you or brainwash you. I hope everybody will stand up, say no to brainwashing. Thanks for listening.